Good morning, everyone. Still lots going on all over Canada, all over the world. I'm going to touch on the things that I think are most important right now. And remember the rail blockades? Remember how those were wreaking havoc? Okay. What happened was Justin Trudeau and his cabinet made a deal with the hereditary chiefs. The hereditary chiefs were the ones who were orchestrating the blockades, for want of a better word. There were some other protesters, Mohawk protesters, who were protesting in sympathy with, and there were other protesters all across Canada blocking bridges and all sorts of stuff, railway lines. There have been lots of train derailments, and while I don't know if they're part of the protests, the timing is very coincidental if you believe in stuff like that. And so now, the elected chiefs, and what I've said from the beginning is there is already a framework for discussion and conversation between Wet'suwet'en or any First Nations chief and the government. And while it's not perfect, and that's what this representative says, Ms. Tate says, while it's not perfect and needs reform, the Indian Act is the framework that is to be used. Certainly not terrorist tactics. Certainly not blocking railways and ignoring train derailments and all that other stuff. Certainly not that. That's not how you negotiate with the government, except that that's exactly how these people negotiated with the government. These terrorists negotiated with the government. And not only that, they usurped the elected officials' position on this. So they've negotiated, they've forced negotiation through terrorist tactics, and now 80% of the people, and I'll get to that in just a minute, 80% of the people that the elected chiefs represent through the old framework, the not standing on railway tracks and disrupting the entire Canadian economy, that is ignored, swept away. And I mean, how many pipelines and gas links and all sort of mining projects, etc., have been lost? Hundreds of billions of dollars was the last. Over $200 billion has in energy projects that have just gone. No jobs, no benefit for Canada at all. We can't get our product to market. Nothing. All since Justin Trudeau took over, since 2015. And some people celebrate that because they think that's a positive thing. But they don't realize you need oil and natural gas to make solar panels and to make windmills. Ha, checkmate, environmentalists. Anyway, back to this. Back to the idea that it is just fine if you use terrorist tactics, and terrorist tactics are violence against the public or public institutions or infrastructure in order to attain a political means, right? Like if you have a political goal, like preventing a gas pipeline going through land you claim is yours, then you use terrorist tactics like derailing trains or blocking trains or shutting down CN and other via rail, etc., other railroads. That's what you do. That's terrorist tactics. Okay, so back to this, back to the heart of this, 3 minutes of diatribing, I apologize. The expositor. The expositor, this is actually like an AP thing. This was posted in the National Post, but I had reached my 10, so this is the one I'm using. They're saying, reporting quote, from Ottawa, Teresa Tate Day, a former Wet'suwet'en hereditary leader, told MPs a pipeline project had been hijacked by 5 male chiefs and criticized Liberal cabinet ministers for making a secret deal with them. I think the focus on the fact that they're all male is interesting, because she was a former hereditary chief until she got stripped of her hereditary title for supporting the GasLink project. But the fact that they're making the gender part of the argument is not appropriate. It's just like racism. Like you can't be racist to white people and say, oh, that doesn't exist, while also claiming that it's not okay to say certain words to black people. Like, it cuts both ways, right? You get it? And it's frustrating, the idea that you can't be racist to white people or whatever. I have been around, I dated a Chinese girl in high school, and I went to dim sum and all that other stuff. You know what they called me a lot? Goi lo. Do you know what that means? Do you know how racist people are? Everybody is. It's not white people who are racist. Everybody's racist. Figure it out, right? Like, and you have to understand that. You have to understand that everybody's kind of the same in that they're racist against everybody else. And families are like that too. Like, your family is obviously better than everybody else's family, right? Like, in-group preference is a thing for humanity. It's a thing. It's just what humans do. Okay, I'm way off track here. Hold on. Let me get my bearings. Male chiefs. I'm leaving it all in. Whatever. Forget it. Back to this. Speaking at the House of Commons committee meeting, Tate Day said that the decision last month to meet with hereditary chiefs was a mistake. The government has legitimized the meeting with 5 hereditary chiefs and left out their entire community, she said. We cannot be dictated to by a group of 5 guys. And we don't want their burgers. Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Carolyn Bennett met with a group of hereditary chiefs from the Wet'suwet'en community in northern BC last month after weeks of crippling railway blockades. After several days of meetings, the 2 sides came to an agreement, the details of which are secret, while the hereditary chiefs take the deal back to their community. The community already voted! The hereditary chiefs are opposed to the Coastal GasLink pipeline project, a project that would bring liquefied natural gas, not oil, to the BC coast for export, to reduce the amount of coal plants being needed in China. That's the idea with the LNG, right? You environmental terrorists, you. Back to this. They don't even understand what they're doing. Like, it would be funny if it wasn't so serious. That's the frustrating part. The hereditary chiefs are opposed to the Coastal GasLink pipeline, a project that would bring But Tate Day, a part of the group, the Wet'suwet'en Matrilineal Coalition, who was stripped of her title of hereditary chief after supporting the Coastal GasLink project, said the vast majority of people in the Wet'suwet'en territory want the project to go ahead. This project has been hijacked by the 5 chiefs, she said. Over 80% of these people, the people in our community, said they wanted LNG to proceed. The Matrilineal Coalition was put together in 2015 to help the Wet'suwet'en people come to a decision on the pipeline project. It received funding from Coastal Gas, but Tate Day said that had not influenced the decision to support the project. In addition to support from Tate Day and other members of the coalition, the project has the backing of elected band council chiefs. Critics said those band council chiefs were part of the Indian Act system. Tate Day said band councils were a flawed system, but their opinions shouldn't be ignored. Quote, the Indian Act system must be reformed, but that does not invalidate the role of the elected councils, she said. She said her community needed economic prosperity to build more sustainable community. Quote, we need to have the benefits of our land. We need to be able to have equity stake in projects that come forward. The hereditary... See, like, do you see the difference between what she's asking for and what the other people are asking for? What she's asking for is, she's saying we need to have equality stake. We need to make enough money for this to make it worth it for our people. We want our people to be rich. We want our land to provide for our people. And that's directly happening, right? Through having the Coastal GasLink, having the jobs that creates, et cetera, et cetera. And the other people just want it to stop. They don't want it to go through. And they're claiming it's for altruistic purposes. They're claiming it's for Mother Earth, et cetera, except that they're being bankrolled by like multinational NGOs who, if you follow any of Vivian Cruz's work, which you should, they have a vested interest in landlocking our oil and making sure that we can't get product to market, right? So there's a lot more going on here than some 5 Wet'suwet'en chiefs, regardless of their gender, who decide right now we're going to blockade railways across the nation with any number of people from terrorism websites joining in, with funding from these international NGOs, right? Like, you see the difference? One group of people is following the rules, is negotiating appropriately, following the Indian Act, flawed as it is, and another group of people is using foreign money to shut down the economy. And the government is choosing to associate and negotiate with the violent terrorists. Frustrating. I mean, that's nothing but frustrating. One group of people is trying, and they're First Nations people. You would think that the government would have compassion about this, and they don't. There's nothing. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care that they're breaking their own rules. They don't care that they're ignoring the Indian Act. They don't care. They don't care. Why would they care? Nobody can say anything about this, right? If you're not First Nation, you can't speak about this. Oh well, whoops, I'm not First Nation. Back to the article. The hereditary chiefs were being supported by environmentalists, Tate Day says, who were disrespecting the rest of the Wet'suwet'en community. We feel like we've been hijacked by the protesters who have their own agenda. I think she's 100% right. 100%. Here, moving on, and yeah, I'm going to get 15 minutes at least anyway. This is a CTV Power Play moment interview with Lisa Raitt. She explains that the Liberal government, the Liberal minority government, is cutting out the opposition with regard to its COVID-19 plans and briefings. Why would they do that? I was going to play it, but it's 44 seconds that I could spend on something else. Here is Justin Trudeau announcing the COVID-19 aid measures Wednesday. I think it is very funny that they say we're trying to contain this. This thing is not contained, not even a tiny little bit. Okay, so aid measures announced later on this morning, probably at some point, probably noon, 11 maybe. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau plans to announce federal funding to help provincial healthcare systems cope with the increasing numbers of Canadians infected with the new coronavirus and to help workers who are forced to isolate themselves. Government sources not authorized to discuss the plans publicly said Trudeau will announce the new measures Wednesday. The immediate objective is to try to contain the spread of the virus as much as possible while also helping individuals hurt financially by COVID-19, such as being forced to take time off work while under mandatory quarantine or self-imposed isolation. Business and labor groups alike have called specifically for the federal government to loosen restrictions on employment insurance payments for people who are sick, who are off work due to illness. This would also make it easier for people with more precarious jobs, to stay at home and avoid infecting others. Finance Minister Bill Morneau said Monday that the government was looking at taking some initiatives this week to help workers, employers, and provincial health systems. There are a few confirmed instances of community transmission of the virus that causes COVID-19 in Canada, but the number of cases has continued to grow Tuesday. The illness has affected more than 100,000 people in 100 countries in the world. 7 new people in British Columbia tested positive for COVID-19 Tuesday, or Wu flu, bringing the provincial total to 39. I just want to mention that there has been a concerted effort to rename this thing from the Wuhan virus, the Wu flu, the whatever, Kung flu. I've heard tons of them. And I've seen pushes for people to start calling this like an Italian flu. It's really, really odd. And the information warfare is interesting because in 5 years, like soon we're going to settle on a name, and in 5 years it's just going to be that name, right? So it's usually viruses are named after the region they started in, right? Like Ebola, right? And dengue fever, right? Like these are like that's just kind of how these things have been named in the past. And this one, the WHO decided, oh no, we're not going to do it. We'll name this COVID-19. It's just it's odd and strange. So I'm fighting back against the information warfare about this. It's really interesting to experience. It is. I mean, it's not good to experience, but it's really interesting, right? Back to the article. The number 7 of new patients includes a second and third community case, meaning that the person has had no known contact with any other cases and has not traveled recently. The provincial health officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry, said 2 new cases are healthcare workers at the same long-term care facility where a small outbreak has already been identified. A total of 8 cases are now linked to the Lynn Valley Care System in North Vancouver, including 2 family members or close contacts of a healthcare worker. Okay, so the other day I did a comparison from Italy to Canada. Italy had 17 cases on February 17th and 10,000 now. Okay, that's roughly 3 weeks later. February 21st to March 6th is 3 weeks. So a month later, almost 4 weeks, the 11th now, there are almost 10,000 cases in Italy. The difference that I thought, and I didn't say this at the time, but and I should have, the difference that I thought was the difference between Canada and Italy is that we didn't have any community cases yet. We didn't have any person to person in Canada. It's all been travel related, right? Now that's changed. So now, and the same thing was true in Italy when they had 17 cases, right? And then by the 25th, so not too long after, they had person to person, and then 2 weeks later, they're on complete full lockdown, 60 million people locked down. I don't know what makes Canada different. Seamus O'Regan is locked down for himself. He's in self-isolation. Here's his tweet. He says, I've had a persistent head cold for a few days, so as a precaution, I saw a doctor. They recommended a test for COVID-19. I'm not aware of contacting anyone infected, but was told to remain in self-isolation until we get the results. Feel fine, but I'll work from home. The responses to that are kind of funny. I'm sure some of them have been hidden. Here's another one. 7 new COVID cases in BC. This was updated yesterday at 5:30 a.m. Updated at 3:47 p.m. And I'm disappointed in the Ontario numbers. It's still, okay. Last night when I went to bed, it was still showing yesterday 10:30. So these are the 5:30 numbers as of yesterday. But here's BC's numbers. 2 of the 7 cases. Okay, I've already kind of read this, so I'm just going to move on. Here's the Ontario numbers. 31 active, 5 resolved, not dead. Not dead. I'm interested to see when we get a dead person, because that's going to happen. Somebody is going to die. And when that happens, I'm interested to see if they add a death line. I think they're just going to add it to resolved. Or dead. Right here. Or dead. That's what I think, but we'll see. Who knows? Thanks for watching, everybody. 14 minutes, 40 seconds. 15 minutes right on. So it is what it is. I apologize, but thank you for watching. Check out CanadaPoly.com and CanadaReport.co. I'm updating that more often. I actually use CanadaReport.co as the seed for my show. So usually if you look at that, you'll know what my show is going to be about. So spoiler alert. And well, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And wash your hands. Stay safe out there.